Isn't there a Glorious Sons song that's like gone number one in the US on the rock charts? Like there's some pretty crazy stuff. Like can you've been like I could be wrong, but I believe you've been working with Glorious Sons for several years, like on different projects. Isn't it crazy how far they've come? Like from when they started, it's like
Oh yeah.
they're playing arenas. They've broken through in the US on the rock charts. Um, yeah, how crazy is their growth, seeing them from the start to now?
It's amazing. It's amazing. They've worked really hard at it. They've put in the miles on the road and um, worked on albums and worked on their craft. They're always evolving. I would say about those guys, they're just always evolving. They've got a great team behind them, and they're they're cool individuals. They've all got their own personalities, and they're nice people. They're good peeps. So yeah, it's been great. It's been great to see. And yeah, they've had a couple of Billboard number ones. They had like a like a big song. The first thing that I worked with them on was it was a single. They came into the studio and did like three songs, and only one ended up getting released just as its own standalone single. And it was a song called "Kill the Lights," and it was a a hit on radio, and they got like a SOCAN award for it and stuff. I didn't mix that one, but I recorded it, and then they went and did their Young Beauties and Fools album. I wasn't a part of that one. They did that in LA, and that got them a Billboard number one for their song "Sawed Off Shotgun." And then the same producer came to Kingston, and I worked with him and the band on their album "A War on Everything," and their lead single from that, "Panic Attack," ended up hitting number one on the Billboard Rock chart
So
for a minute. And
that's the single I'm thinking of that went to number one in the US. Yeah.
oh, it would have been that, or it would have been
It's
"Sawed
that
Off
one, the
Shotgun" before that. Yeah,
panic, yeah.
yeah, "Panic Attack." Yeah, and that album won that was the Juno award winning album. Well, actually, they've won the Juno award for Rock Album of the Year twice, for "Young Beauties and Fools" and for "A War on Everything." So I mean, these guys they're a great rock band. They're the real deal. They're the real deal rock and roll. I'll say that much.
So let's pause on the Junos for a second. So you have a skewed reference point for the Junos, because bands like Finger 11, so we had Rick Jacket from Finger 11 on here not too long ago for a 2.5 hour interview, and
Amazing.
they finally won their first Juno on their seventh nomination. Like that's normal. If you get nominated at all, which is hard to do, the chances of winning, it's even more unlikely. And then we have Mr. Kevin Dietz, who gets nominated for two Junos and wins both Junos. So you are the running going into 2022. There's like your own category essentially. So
Yeah, yeah, right.
rock album of the year 2020 for the Glorious Sons, A War and Everything, and then the same award the next year, 2021, JJ Wilde's Ruthless. And what's historic about her winning that award, she is the first female to win the Rock Album of the Year award in 25 years, since a little album called Jagged Little Pill from Alanis Morissette, which is, I believe, like top maybe 10, 15 selling albums of all time, period. And maybe the
Well,
first or
it's
second best selling
absolutely
Canadian album of all time. So
absolutely
how insane is
iconic.
that? Yeah. How insane is it that you're a part of this, the first female to win that award in 25 years? Like that's unbelievable.
Well, I'll say this. JJ Wilde, again, she's the real deal. Absolutely, she's as rock and roll as they get. She's the real deal. All kudos, all credit goes to her. Um, Yeah, and it's awesome. Again, it's so great to be. I'm so grateful to be a part of um, albums and songs and artists contribute to album songs and artists that get out there and that people love. I'm that's what I set out to do. Those are the type of people that I wanted to get involved with. So I love it. And I mean, in all reality, so I just want to say this just as a to clarify. It's not me that gets nominated for these Junos. It's the bands and artists win them for their albums. And as an engineer or as a producer or as a whatever your role is, you as a peripheral person involved in that production, you can get a statue. You can say, oh, I guess you could say I won a Juno, but I always say that I got a Juno.
You worked on Juno award winning. Okay.
Yeah. I always just like to. I never like to claim what is not mine. The only category that I could personally win a Juno in would be recording engineer of the year or producer of the year, and but that's a small point. But I just think worth clarifying, just because I never want to overstate or claim something that I shouldn't. But yeah, being part of those two albums that won rock album of the year back to back, and of course, yeah, JJ, that's definitely like a historic moment, is awesome. And again, I give all the props to them and their team, and I have gratitude to them and their team for having me contribute in the way that I do, which was in this case engineering on those albums. And that it makes me super happy, and it motivates me. I just go, okay, yeah, let's go. Like this is great. I'm just so glad that when I see so many people going, oh yeah, Glorious Sons, love that band, JJ Wilde, oh, she's awesome. It puts a smile on my face, because I go, yeah, they are awesome. And artists like that inspire me to do my best work.
So we have a few kind words sent into the podcast here from engineer producer Brian Moncars. So he's worked with Our Lady Peace, The Trues, Never Ending White Lights. So he says Kevin Dietz is a killer engineer, producer, and all around great human. We keep getting that, keeps coming up, that you're a great human. That's important. I've always enjoyed my time in the studio with him immensely. So some kind words from Brian that wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Moncars. I can definitely reciprocate. Brian Moncars is such a good, just such a good vibe. He's always got a big smile on his face, and yeah, he would certainly be an example of be the kind of person that people want to work with. He would be a prime example of that. And obviously of the bands you listed that he's worked with, there are the list is so much longer with names of equal clout, and yeah, he's such a great dude.
We have a fan question sent in here. This one's a little different. So this is from Michael Chan, and he says, ask Kevin what he thinks about strange and quirky objects and decorations in the studio, and what impact they might have on inspiration and creating a vibe during sessions. So is that a thing of bringing in stuff? And then his second part to the question is, what was the experience like doing Mix with the Masters in California at Chris Lord Alg's studio? And he's like an all-time great mixing engineer.
Yeah.
So two-part question for you there.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right Michael Chan, who
with a skull. He brought a skull into the studio with you.
Absolutely, yes. First off, hi Mike, and thanks for the question. And yes, I had this I had this like fluorescent green, kind of like rubber skull that I feel like I bought it at a grocery store many years ago. It's like a cheesy Halloween decoration, and there's a light bulb in the middle, and it'll light up. And skulls are cool. I like that, and this thing looked outrageous, so I bought it for $10, and I put it in I remember putting it in my apartment window and lighting it up at night and just leaving it on to be like, oh, I want someone to walk by and go, what is that? And I would bring it when I started doing sessions on my own. Yeah, I actually left it at the studio for a while, and I would bring it out and put it on the console. And it was just a quirky thing. It's just one of those, it's just a vibe piece. I remember going down to a producer's studio in LA, and he had this massive lava lamp. And me and my buddy, the artist I was working with, we were like, that is so cool. And we just kept staring at the lava lamp. Things like that are, it's just vibe, you know? It's just vibe. There's the whole typical thing of, you want to set a mood, you light some candles in the studio or whatever. That's a total vibe. It's just a common thing to do. Because studio spaces are often, they're made to be, to a degree, and again, not as a, not as a negative connotation, but they're made to be somewhat generic, so that oftentimes they're made to be somewhat generic because there's so many different people that roll through, and it's hard to create a vibe that everyone's gonna love.
They're kind of clean and sterile, and so it's sometimes you can put in your own vibe when you come in.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So having some things like that are good ways to just help create a vibe and have a little conversation piece or whatever, or just something funny, or those are good things. So yeah, he knows about the green skull, and a few people do. Sadly, I'm not even sure if I have that green skull anymore. I've moved so many times since, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 times since I've had that skull. It may have gotten lost in the mix, or it's in a box in my storage unit somewhere. That could be the case too. But the green skull was definitely a thing.